France Tech CEO spoke only French, begged someone to save his daughter's life. Only she understood, and Adrien Moreau's head snapped up, his frantic pleas halting mid-sentence. Among the sea of confused Miami emergency room staff, an African-American woman stepped forward, her French flawless and confident. His entire body sagged with relief. Have you ever been the only person who could help in crisis? Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story. Her voice cut through his panic like a beacon. The only words he understood in a room full of strangers while his daughter turned blue in his arms. Je comprends. Dites-moi ce qui s'est passé. I understand. Tell me what happened. Adrien Moreau's head snapped up, his frantic pleas halting mid-sentence. Among the sea of confused Miami emergency room staff, an African-American woman stepped forward, her French flawless and confident. His entire body sagged with relief. On allergy, he rushed out, words tumbling over each other as he clutched his 8-year-old daughter closer. She cannot breathe. Qualchos dans la nourriture. Something in the food. The woman turned to the waiting doctors, translating rapidly. Severe allergic reaction, possibly anaphylaxis. He says it happened suddenly after dinner. The medical team sprang into action, taking the child from Adrien's trembling arms. Harsh hospital lights cast stark shadows across his daughter's pale face as monitors beeped warnings that needed no translation. You speak French, he said, his English halting and accented. You saved her. I lived in Marseille for 2 years, she replied, extending her hand. Camille Brooks. His fingers wrapped around hers, the grip desperate and lingering. Adrien Moreau. My Mathilde. She is all I have. The next hours passed in a blur of medical terms and worried glances through glass doors. Camille stayed, translating doctors' updates, explaining procedures. She noticed how Adrien's designer suit couldn't hide the ordinary fear of a father terrified of losing his child. How his hands shook when signing consent forms. How his eyes never left the treatment room. You don't have to stay, he said after midnight, his voice rough with exhaustion. I know, she answered simply. When the doctor finally confirmed Mathilde was stabilized, something broke in Adrien's carefully maintained facade. His shoulders dropped, his breath releasing in a shudder that seemed to come from his soul. Thank you, he whispered, eyes meeting Camille's with an intensity that made her pulse quicken unexpectedly. If you hadn't been here. His phone buzzed, breaking the moment. Camille watched his expression transform as he read the messages. Shock, then cold fury, replacing relief. Is everything okay? Non, he said, his jaw tight as he typed a rapid response. This was not an accident. What do you mean? He looked up, studying her with new calculation in his gaze. My daughter's medical records are private. Her allergies, confidential. Someone wanted to harm her, perhaps to get to me. Camille took an instinctive step back. I should go. Wait. His hand caught her wrist, the touch sending an unexpected current through her skin. You saved Mathilde tonight, but by doing so, you may have put yourself in danger too. Camille's heart thumped against her ribs as Adrien glanced over his shoulder, his voice dropping to a whisper. These people, they saw your face. They heard you speak my language. They know you helped me. That moment when everything depends on you stepping forward? Share your experience below. She'd walked into the hospital a tourist and walked out with a billionaire's business card and 3 words that would change everything. I need you. Morning sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows of a beachfront hotel suite that dwarfed Camille's entire New Orleans apartment. She stared at the cream-colored card in her hand, embossed with Adrien Moreau's name and the logo of his AI security company. Her phone buzzed with a reminder. Her flight home departed in 5 hours. Back to reality. Back to her grandmother's mounting medical bills. Back to job applications and dwindling savings. A knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Adrien stood in the hallway, impeccably dressed despite obvious sleeplessness. Dark circles shadowed his eyes, but his posture remained straight, commanding. You came, she said, suddenly aware of her wrinkled sundress and bare feet. I promised compensation for your help last night. He stepped inside, his cologne, subtle, expensive, filling her senses. But I'm here to offer something more. More. A job. He moved to the window, Miami's glittering coastline framed behind him like a backdrop arranged to showcase his power. Camille felt suddenly, acutely aware of his presence. The breadth of his shoulders beneath his tailored jacket, the controlled energy in his movements. My daughter speaks no English. My enemies speak no French. You speak both. He turned, eyes locking with hers. Name your price. For what exactly? Come to Paris. Be Mathilde's companion. My translator for sensitive business matters. Camille laughed, the sound sharp with disbelief. You don't know anything about me. I know enough. His gaze never wavered. You have degrees in linguistics and international relations. You spent 2 years in Marseille. Your grandmother raised you after Hurricane Katrina claimed your parents. And now her care facility costs more than you can afford. Her laughter died. How did you? I researched potential employees thoroughly. A chill ran through her. When did I become a potential employee? The moment you spoke French in that emergency room. He stepped closer. I need someone I can trust. Someone not already connected to my company. Someone like you. You don't trust your own people. His jaw tightened. Someone is working against me. Against my family. Camille calculated quickly. 6 months' salary could clear her grandmother's medical debt. A year could provide security they hadn't known since before the hurricane. 70,000 for 6 months, she said, naming a figure that would solve her most pressing problems. Something flickered in his eyes. Not relief, but disappointment. Is that all you think you're worth? He asked, his voice low. 140,000, plus accommodations, expenses, and private security. Security? As I said, someone tried to harm my daughter. Now they know your face. His phone chimed. Checking it, his expression darkened. Consider carefully, Mademoiselle Brooks. But don't consider too long. Would you upend your life to help a stranger who offered to pay whatever you asked? What price would you name? Tell me in the comments. She'd come to Miami seeking escape from debt and grief. Now a man who commanded billions was offering her a fortune to step into a danger she couldn't comprehend. You're not telling me everything, Camille said, watching Adrian pace the hotel suite. Who would want to hurt your daughter? He stopped, hands clasped behind his back. My company, Moreau Technologies, has developed an AI security system that could detect digital surveillance. Several governments want exclusive rights. Several corporations want to steal it. And they'd harm a child to get it? Power makes monsters of men. His eyes met hers, hard with certainty. 3 weeks ago, my chief security officer died in a car accident. Last week, my Paris office was breached. Now my daughter, his voice caught. I need someone outside my usual circle. Someone they won't expect. To do what exactly? Be my eyes and ears. Translate conversations, the words and what remains unspoken. Help identify who I can't trust. The proposition was absurd. Dangerous. Yet something about his controlled desperation resonated with her. Camille had spent her life being underestimated. The poor girl from New Orleans, the scholarship student, the American in France. Perhaps being overlooked could become an advantage. Your security team can't help? They're part of what I'm investigating. Through the window, she spotted a sleek black car waiting below. Beyond it, the ocean stretched endlessly, much like the gulf between her world and his. I need to check on my grandmother first. Relief softened his features. Of course, I can arrange. No, she held up her hand. I'll call her myself. As Camille dialed, Adrian moved to give her privacy, his tall frame silhouetted against Miami's skyline. The afternoon sun caught his profile, highlighting cheekbones that could have been carved from marble. Despite the circumstances, she found herself noticing how his presence commanded the room, how his movements carried unconscious grace. Her grandmother answered on the third ring. Their conversation was brief, reassuring. As Camille hung up, Adrian turned. Everything okay? Yes. She's doing well today. He nodded, then hesitated. There's a private jet waiting. We can leave for Paris tonight. Tonight, the reality of what she was considering crashed over her. This is crazy. I don't know you. I don't. You don't trust me. A hint of a smile touched his lips. Good. Trust should be earned, not given. A sudden chime from her phone interrupted. Camille glanced down in news alert, her blood freezing in her veins. Fire at Marigold Senior Living Center, New Orleans. Multiple injuries reported. She looked up to find Adrian already watching her, his expression grim. That's my grandmother's home, she whispered. I know. His voice was soft but certain. And the timing isn't coincidental. You think. I think someone is sending us both a message. He extended his hand. Come with me now, and I'll make sure she's protected. I promise you that. What would make you trust a stranger with your safety? With your future? Is there a moment when instinct overrides logic? Share your thoughts below. 30,000 feet above the Atlantic, she realized two terrifying truths. Someone was watching her grandmother, and the man sitting across from her knew exactly who it was. Tell me everything, Camille demanded, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her stomach. No more half-truths. Adrian's private jet hummed around them, luxury that would have impressed her under different circumstances. Now, all she could think about was the confirmed report that her grandmother had been moved to safety minutes before the fire broke out in her wing of the care facility. My security team is with her now, Adrian said, sliding a tablet across the table between them. She's comfortable, protected. That doesn't answer my question. Night cloaked the jet in darkness, broken only by the soft blue glow of cabin lights, creating an intimate bubble where Adrian's face remained half in shadow as he considered his next words. I believe the attack was orchestrated by someone inside my company, someone with access to my personal files. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. After you helped Mathilde, I ran a background check. Standard procedure. That digital trail led them to your family. So this is my fault for helping your daughter? Anger flared, hot and sudden. No. The single word carried such force that Camille fell silent. This is the fault of whoever is trying to destroy what I've built. They're targeting anyone connected to me, including a stranger you met yesterday, especially a stranger I'm bringing into my confidence. His eyes held hers, unwavering. They're showing me that no one is beyond their reach. The cabin lights dimmed further as the jet entered cruise mode. Outside the windows, clouds parted occasionally to reveal the vast darkness of the ocean below. Camille felt suddenly, acutely aware of how far she was from everything familiar. You should try to sleep, Adrian said, his voice gentler. The private quarters are through that door. I'm not tired. A lie. Exhaustion pulled at her limbs, but adrenaline kept her alert, wary. Then I'll keep you company. He poured 2 glasses of water, offering her one. Ask me anything. I owe you transparency. Their fingers brushed during the exchange, the brief contact sending an unexpected warmth through her hand. Camille pulled back quickly, unsettled by her body's reaction to this man she barely knew. Why me? There must be dozens of French translators in Miami. None who acted without hesitation. None who stayed all night without being asked. Something in his expression shifted, became more personal. None I would trust with my daughter's life. Before she could respond, the plane jolted, hitting unexpected turbulence. Camille's water sloshed over the rim of her glass. Adrian reached out instinctively, steadying her arm, his touch firm but careful. Sorry, she murmured, suddenly aware of his proximity, the clean scent of his cologne. Don't be. The turbulence intensified. The plane dropped suddenly, then stabilized. Camille fell forward against his chest. His arms came around her automatically, securing her. I won't let anything happen to you, he whispered in French, the words warm against her hair. When the plane steadied, neither moved immediately. His heartbeat echoed against her cheek, strong and slightly elevated. When she finally pulled away, the look in his eyes held something beyond professional concern, and a fear suggesting he might not be able to maintain that boundary much longer. When was the last time you felt both protected and trapped by the same person? That contradiction between safety and danger? Drop your experience in the comments. The city of love welcomed her with armed guards and bulletproof glass. a clear message that romance wasn't on the itinerary, survival was. Dawn painted Paris in gentle pinks and golds as their motorcade crossed the Seine. Under different circumstances, Camille might have pressed her face to the window, drinking in the city she'd studied but never visited. Instead, she noted the security vehicles ahead and behind, the earpieces worn by their driver and the front passenger, the subtle bulge of weapons beneath tailored jackets. "My home," Adrian said as they approached a modernist structure of glass and steel overlooking the river. The building stood tall among centuries-old architecture, new power respecting old traditions, much like the man himself. High walls surrounded the property. The gates opened automatically, closing immediately behind them. Camille counted 3 security checkpoints before they reached the main entrance. "Is it always like this?" "No," Adrian admitted, helping her from the car. "Not until recently." Inside, the home opened into soaring spaces filled with natural light, minimalist furniture, and museum-quality art. A fortress disguised as a showcase. "Papa." A small figure flew down the grand staircase. Mathilde Moreau looked remarkably recovered, her dark curls bouncing as she launched herself into her father's arms. He caught her, lifting her high before hugging her close, murmuring French endearments against her hair. Watching them, Camille felt something shift in her perception of Adrian. The powerful so momentarily vanished, replaced by a father whose face softened with undisguised love. "Mathilde," he said, setting his daughter down, "this is Mademoiselle Brooks, the lady who helped us at the hospital." The girl studied Camille with intelligent eyes so like her father's. "Merci," she said formally, then added in French, "Papa says you're staying with us. Will you read to me?" "Papa tries, but he does the voices wrong." Camille smiled despite herself. "I'd be honored." A woman appeared at the top of the stairs, elegant, middle-aged, with a keen gaze. "Monsieur Moreau, welcome home. Mathilde should be resting." "Merci, Madame Laurent." Adrian nodded. "Please show Mademoiselle Brooks to her rooms." As the housekeeper led her upstairs, Camille glanced back to see Adrian kneeling before his daughter, their foreheads touching, his hands gentle on her small shoulders. The tender gesture felt almost too intimate to witness. Her suite was larger than her entire apartment back home, decorated in cream and pale blue. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a view of the Seine, though she noted the glass was certainly bulletproof. After unpacking her meager belongings, Camille found herself drawn to the sound of laughter. Following it led her to a cheerful yellow room where Adrian sat beside Mathilde's bed, reading a story. His deep voice shifted for each character, earning giggles from his daughter. Camille paused in the doorway, unwilling to intrude. Watching them, she felt a peculiar ache for the father she'd lost too young, for the normal life this little girl couldn't have, for the unexpected warmth spreading through her chest at this glimpse of Adrian unguarded. As if sensing her presence, he looked up, their eyes meeting over Mathilde's head. The connection felt strangely electric, charged with something neither acknowledged. The moment broke when Mathilde spotted her. "Come in. Papa's reading about dragons." Later, tucking the child in, Mathilde whispered, "You look like the woman in Papa's hidden photo, the one he says he loved before Mama died." Before Camille could process this, security alarms blared throughout the house. Have you ever stepped into someone else's world and felt the strange pull of belonging somewhere you shouldn't? Tell me about that moment of disorientation below. She walked into the executive meeting, speaking his language perfectly, and watched 12 powerful men suddenly realize their secrets weren't secret anymore. "Gentlemen," Adrian announced, his hand resting lightly at the small of Camille's back as they entered the Moreau Technologies boardroom. "This is Camille Brooks, my new personal translator." The night's security breach had been a false alarm, triggered, Adrian explained later, by an executive accessing restricted files. The incident accelerated his plans to bring Camille to the company headquarters. Now, she stood beside him in a borrowed designer suit, feeling eyes assess and dismiss her, exactly as he'd predicted. The boardroom overlooked the Eiffel Tower, power framing power. Sunlight glinted off the chrome conference table where 12 men in bespoke suits straightened almost imperceptibly as Adrian took his seat at the head. Camille positioned herself slightly behind him, notebook ready, invisible yet present. "Shall we begin?" Adrian asked in English, then switched seamlessly to rapid French. "Though perhaps we should discuss why Pascal accessed the Prometheus files at midnight." The CFO, a silver-haired man with calculating eyes, didn't flinch. "Quarterly review preparations," he responded smoothly in French. "Nothing unusual." Camille noted which executives exchanged glances, which studied their tablets too intently. She jotted observations in a shorthand only she could read. The meeting proceeded, shifting between languages depending on the topic. Throughout, Adrian occasionally leaned toward her, his breath warm against her ear as he whispered clarifications or instructions. Each time, Camille fought the distraction of his proximity, the subtle scent of his aftershave, the inexplicable awareness of his hand when it briefly covered hers to indicate a particular document. During a presentation on market expansion, the marketing director switched to French, saying, "The American regulation problems can be circumvented through our Cayman subsidiary." Camille's pen paused. The man's micro-expressions suggested something beyond regulatory concerns. When the conversation returned to English, Adrian tapped her notes. She leaned close, their shoulders touching as she whispered. The marketing director tensed when mentioning American regulations. His eye contact pattern changed. Adrian nodded slightly, then addressed the room. "Vincent, elaborate on these American complications." The marketing director's explanation was technically flawless, yet Camille sensed underlying evasion. She wrote, "Hiding something specific to U.S. market." As the meeting concluded, executives filed out with cordial nods to Adrian and curious glances at Camille. Only the CFO lingered, his assessment of her more direct. "Your translator is quite attentive," he commented in French, "though I wonder if tech security is the appropriate place for a newcomer." "Mademoiselle Brooks has my complete confidence," Adrian replied coolly. "Her outsider perspective is precisely what we need." When the door closed behind Pascal, Adrian's professional mask slipped, revealing tightly controlled anger. "You noticed," he said, "not a question. The CFO doesn't trust me." "No." Adrian moved to the windows, Paris spread before him. "Because you're watching him too closely." Camille joined him, their reflections ghostly against the cityscape beyond. "There's more happening than corporate politics, isn't there?" "Much more." His jaw tightened. "The Prometheus project isn't just about security systems. It's about who controls the future of digital privacy. Governments, corporations, they all want it, and someone inside is helping them get it." "Yes." On impulse, she touched his arm, feeling tense muscle beneath fine wool. "Your CFO is working against you." Instead of surprise, his face showed grim confirmation. "I know," he replied, covering her hand with his own. The touch lingered, warming her skin. "That's why I needed someone he wouldn't recognize as a threat. Someone like you." His gaze held hers, the professional boundary between them momentarily thinning. In the reflected glass, they looked like conspirators, heads bent together against the backdrop of Paris. Or perhaps something else entirely. When have you recognized someone was lying to you just through their body language? That moment when words say one thing, but everything else screams the truth? Share your story. The photo in his desk drawer stopped her breathing. Her mother's face smiling back at her from 25 years ago, standing arm in arm with Adrian's father. Camille shouldn't have been in Adrian's private study, but after a week of boardroom observations and careful notes, she needed answers, not just more questions. Rain lashed against the study windows as she eased open the drawer he'd locked each night. Inside lay a worn leather portfolio, and beneath it, a photograph. Lightning flashed, illuminating the image in stark detail. A younger version of her mother. Beautiful, smiling, stood beside a man who could only be Adrian's father. Their arms were linked. Both wore lab coats with a logo she recognized, Early Morrow Technologies. Thunder crashed outside as Camille stared, uncomprehending. Her mother had been an elementary school teacher in New Orleans. She'd never mentioned France, never spoken of technology companies or the Moreau family. "Find what you're looking for." Adrian's voice from the doorway made her jump. He stood watching her, expression unreadable. "You knew," she accused, holding up the photograph. "You knew who I was from the beginning." "Not in the hospital," he said quietly, stepping into the room. "But after, yes. You've been manipulating me since Miami." Betrayal burned hot in her chest. "Using my grandmother to control me." "I've been protecting your grandmother," he corrected, moving closer, "and trying to right a wrong decades in the making." Another lightning flash illuminated his face. The same tension she'd witnessed in boardrooms, but also something raw, almost vulnerable. "Explain," she demanded. "Now." "Your mother was brilliant," he began, rain drumming against the windows like an urgent heartbeat. "She and my father co-founded the original algorithm that became Moreau Technologies. Equal partners. That's impossible, is it?" He moved to a wall safe hidden behind an abstract painting. From it, he withdrew yellow documents. "These patents list both their names, Marie Brooks and Henri Moreau. My mother was a teacher. After she left France, yes." He spread the papers between them. "After her partnership with my father dissolved. After she was threatened." Camille's hands trembled as she examined the documents. Her mother's signature, unmistakable. Dates from before Camille was born. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because you deserve to know." Adrian's voice softened. "And because I've been looking for your family for 20 years. Your mother was supposed to inherit half of everything I own." Tears burned Camille's eyes. "My mother died, thinking we had nothing." "I know." He stepped closer, one hand tentatively reaching to brush a tear from her cheek. The gentle touch sent unexpected warmth through her skin. "That's what I'm trying to fix." She jerked away. "You can't fix it. She's gone. But you're here." His eyes held hers, intensity burning through the professional veneer. Her daughter, her heir. Another crash of thunder rattled the windows. In the brief darkness before the generator kicked in, Camille felt the world shifting beneath her feet. Everything she thought she knew about her mother, her past, herself, all suddenly uncertain. When the lights returned, Adrian stood closer than before, close enough that she could see the regret in his eyes, feel the warmth radiating from his body. "I should have told you sooner," he admitted, "but I needed to be sure you weren't part of the conspiracy first. And now I'm sure." His hand lifted again, hesitating near her face. "Now I trust you completely." Have you ever discovered a connection to someone that seemed too coincidental to be chance? That moment when you wonder if fate is real after all? Tell me your story below. She came to Paris as his employee and discovered she was his business partner, with a target already on her back. Morning sun streamed through Adrian's study windows as legal documents spread across his desk. A paper trail through time, connecting two families, two tragedies, and one company worth billions. "After your mother fled France, my father rewrote the company structure," Adrian explained, voice tight with controlled anger. "He transferred her shares to a holding company, which later transferred them to my uncle." "Why would she leave everything behind?" Camille asked, struggling to reconcile this new reality with the mother she'd known. Practical, careful, devoted to her small classroom in New Orleans. "Fear." Adrian pointed to a document dated a month before her mother's departure. "There was a lab accident. My father's assistant died. The investigation suggested sabotage. And they blamed my mother?" "No, but someone threatened her directly." He hesitated. "And she was pregnant with you." The revelation hit Camille like physical impact. "She ran to protect me." "Yes." His fingers brushed hers across the desk, the touch gentle but electric. "She hid in America, changed careers, built a new life, but kept her name, her maiden name, Brooks. Your father's name was Devereaux." Camille blinked. "How do you know that?" "I've been searching for Marie Brooks for 20 years. After my father died, I found his private journals. He never believed she was involved in the sabotage. He spent years trying to find her, to make amends. Too late." Bitterness tinged her voice. She died believing she had nothing to leave me except debt. Not anymore. Adrian slid a folder toward her. These documents restore your mother's original ownership stake. 45% of Morrow Technologies. Camille's breath caught. Worth approximately 8 billion euros. The number was incomprehensible. Abstract. She pushed the folder away. I don't want your guilt money. It's not guilt. It's justice. His eyes held hers, unwavering. It's your birthright, and the real reason someone's targeting us both. Understanding dawned in his expression. You think the attempts on Mathilde, your grandmother, are about preventing me from claiming this inheritance? Yes. She stood, pacing the sunlit room. Someone knows I exist, knows what I'm entitled to. Pascal, Adrian muttered, the CFO. He's had access to my father's records. And if these shares transfer to me, his control of the board vanishes. Adrian joined her by the window, close enough that she felt the warmth radiating from his body. You understand now why I couldn't tell you everything immediately. Their eyes met in the reflection on the glass. Paris spread below them like a glittering promise. Something shifted between them, professional boundaries blurring as shared danger and shared history created unexpected intimacy. What now? She asked, voice softer than intended. Now we prove your identity conclusively. Submit the legal claims. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining with natural ease. Together, the moment stretched, tension building. Adrian stepped closer, his free hand rising to brush a strand of hair from her face. The touch lingered, his fingers trailing along her jaw. Camille's pulse quickened as he leaned down, their breath mingling. The security system chimed, breaking the spell. Adrian's head of security appeared on the intercom, requesting immediate attention. Camille stepped back, heart racing from what had almost happened. Adrian's expression showed equal parts frustration and resignation as he answered the call. Security footage filled his computer screen, a night vision recording of masked figures attempting to breach the mansion's perimeter. The timestamp showed 3:17 a.m. while they'd been asleep. The intruder's entry pattern, Adrian noted, voice tight. They headed straight for the east wing. My room, Camille whispered. Not mine, not even Mathilde's. His jaw clenched. They know exactly who you are, which means we have a traitor inside this house. What would you do if you discovered your family had been cheated out of fortune? Would you fight for justice or walk away from danger? Share your thoughts in the comments. With assassins hunting them both, sharing a panic room with a man she barely trusted wasn't ideal, until his confessions in the darkness changed everything she thought she knew. This way, Adrian urged, leading Camille through a hidden passage behind his bedroom bookcase. Mathilde followed, clutching her father's hand, eyes wide with practiced fear, a child too familiar with midnight evacuations. Security alarms wailed throughout the mansion. The second breach attempt in a week had triggered Adrian's contingency plan, the panic room. The reinforced door seal behind them with a pneumatic hiss, cutting off the alarm's mid-wail. Inside, the space hummed with technology, monitoring screens, communications equipment, enough supplies for weeks. A fortress within a fortress, and nowhere to avoid each other. Madame Laurent settled Mathilde on a small bed in the corner alcove, whispering reassurances until the child's eyes grew heavy. When soft, even breathing confirmed she slept, the housekeeper nodded to Adrian and retreated to the communication station, giving them what privacy the confined space allowed. I'm sorry, Adrian said, his voice low. I never wanted to put you in danger. Did you expect anything different? Camille challenged. 8 billion euros makes a tempting target. This isn't just about money. He ran a hand through his hair, disheveled from sleep. Without his usual tailored armor, in just a t-shirt and sleep pants, he looked younger, more vulnerable. It's about control of the technology. The Prometheus project. Yes. He gestured to a nearby monitor displaying the mansion's security feed, an AI system that can detect and counter surveillance. In the wrong hands, it becomes a weapon. Like your wife's death? The question had burned since she'd overheard Mathilde's whispered comment to her doll. Mama didn't have an accident. Adrian's head snapped up, eyes sharpening. What do you know about that? Nothing. But I recognized grief, Adrian, and fear. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft hum of equipment. The panic room's dim blue lighting cast shadows across his face, highlighting the weariness etched there. Elise died 3 years ago, he finally said. Car accident, officiellement. But the brakes were tampered with. His voice grew distant. She discovered financial irregularities in the company. Offshore accounts, missing research funds. Pascal, I believe so, but couldn't prove it. His hands clenched. By the time I pieced it together, the evidence was gone. And then, searching my father's records for anything that might help, I found mentions of your mother instead. The revelation settled between them, another thread connecting their lives. You've been alone since then, Camille observed softly. Fighting this battle by yourself. Protecting Mathilde is all that matters. And now protecting me too? His gaze lifted to hers, something raw and honest breaking through his careful control. Yes, the admission hung in the air, charged with meanings neither had intended to reveal. In the dim blue light, with danger prowling outside and truths exposed within, the careful distance they'd maintained collapsed. Adrian moved closer, his hand rising to trace her face in the soft glow. I shouldn't want this, he whispered, voice rough with conflicting emotions. But I've been alone so long. Camille knew she should pull away. Professional boundaries, dangerous complications. Instead, her body swayed toward his, drawn by something beyond logic or self-preservation. When their lips met, the contact was tentative at first, a question, not a demand. Then something broke inside them both, restraint shattering like glass. His arms pulled her closer as she wound her fingers into his hair, the kiss deepening with hunger neither had acknowledged until this moment. Camille, he breathed against her skin, hands mapping her body through thin sleep clothes, each touch igniting new heat. Tell me to stop. Don't stop, she answered, pulling him toward the small alcove on the opposite side from Mathilde's bed. Not now. In the blue-lit darkness of the panic room, with danger circling outside, they found unexpected shelter in each other. Passion born from shared danger, shared purpose, and something neither was ready to name. When has danger made you feel more alive? That moment when threat strips away pretense and you connect with someone on the rawest level? Tell me about it below. The truth wasn't buried in business records, but in a children's book her mother had left behind, with a code that unlocked everything Adrian had been searching for. There has to be more, Camille insisted, pacing Adrian's study 3 days after their night in the panic room. Security had found no intruders, just sophisticated equipment designed to trigger the alarms. My mother wouldn't leave without proof. Adrian watched her from behind his desk, their new intimacy creating an undercurrent neither fully acknowledged in daylight. Professional by day, something else entirely by night. Boundaries blurring with each shared secret. The company records show the transfers, he said, but nothing proving they were fraudulent. Then we need to look beyond company records. She stopped suddenly. What if she left something with me? Something I never recognized. His head tilted. Like what? I don't know. But there's a box of her things my grandmother kept. Books, mostly. A spark lit his eyes. Books she read to you as child? Yes. What? Let me make some calls. Hours later, Mathilde's bedroom became an unlikely war room. Stuffed animals witnessing as they spread worn children's books across a princess canopy bed. The little girl sat cross-legged beside Camille, solemnly helping sort through the treasures that had arrived by private courier from New Orleans. Papa says your mama wrote stories, Mathilde said, running small fingers over a hand-bound book with faded colors. She illustrated them. Camille corrected, the memory bittersweet. She drew pictures for stories we made up together. Adrian lifted the homemade book, examining it with keen attention. This binding method, it's unusual. She learned bookbinding after we moved to New Orleans. Camille smiled at the memory, said computers were too easy to hack, but few people looked inside book spines. Adrian's head snapped up, eyes meeting hers with sudden intensity. The spine. His fingers worked carefully along the binding, finding a nearly invisible seam. As Mathilde watched wide-eyed, he gently separated the backing, revealing tissue-thin paper with numbers and letters hidden inside. "Coordinates," Camille whispered, recognizing latitude and longitude, and a cipher key. "Your mother was remarkable," Adrian said softly, his admiration evident as their fingers touched over the discovery. For hours, they worked side by side, decoding the hidden message, Mathilde eventually falling asleep, surrounded by books and papers. Watching the child's peaceful face, Camille felt an unexpected pull, not just affection, but a sense of rightness that both scared and comforted her. Adrian noticed her watching his daughter. Something warm and unguarded crossed his face as he reached for Camille's hand, linking their fingers with casual intimacy that felt dangerously natural. She caught him looking at her that way more frequently since the panic room, like she belonged in his world, in his home, in his life. The thought sent equal measures of thrill and terror through her veins. "I think I've got it," she said, redirecting her focus to the final decoded message. "It's not company records. It's a name, a location." Adrian leaned closer, his shoulder pressing against hers as they examined the completed cipher. His proximity sent a now familiar heat along her skin, his scent a distraction she was learning to work through, not against. "That's impossible," he breathed, staring at the name. "He died 15 years ago." "Your father's former business partner," Camille confirmed. "According to this, he faked his death, and he's been living outside Paris all this time." "The final page contains coordinates," Adrian said, voice tight with anticipation. "Not to missing documents as we'd hoped, but to a small cemetery outside Paris. There's someone still alive who knows everything," Camille whispered, pointing to the name they both recognized. "Someone who's been playing dead for 15 years. What childhood possession might contain secrets you've never noticed? Something hiding in plain sight all these years. Share your thoughts." The grave was empty, just like the promises that had destroyed both their families. But unlike those promises, this emptiness offered hope. Midnight transformed Père Lachaise cemetery into a maze of shadows and stone angels. Camille followed Adrian through narrow paths between tombs, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. Breaking into a cemetery hadn't been on her list of expected activities when she'd agreed to come to Paris. Yet here they were, flashlights dimmed, moving silently toward the mausoleum that supposedly contained Philippe Mercier, Adrian's father's original financial partner, and, according to her mother's hidden message, the architect of both families' downfall. "There," Adrian whispered, indicating an ornate stone structure bearing the Mercier family crest. Moonlight silvered the headstones as they em.
"Are you sure about this?" she asked as he produced a small toolkit from his jacket. "Your mother's message was clear." His fingers worked skillfully on the ancient lock. "Philippe Mercier knows everything, which means he's not in this tomb." The lock yielded with a soft click. Inside, the mausoleum smelled of dust and forgotten flowers. Adrian's flashlight beam swept across carved names and dates until landing on a newer marble plaque. Philippe Mercier, with a death date 15 years earlier. "Help me," he said, positioning himself at one end of the stone slab covering the supposed resting place. Together they pushed, the heavy marble grinding softly as it moved. Camille's breath caught as the flashlight revealed an empty space below. No coffin, no remains. "He's alive," Adrian breathed, excitement and vindication mingling in his voice. A sudden crunch of gravel outside froze them both. Flashlights bobbed between distant monuments, security guards on patrol. "We need to go," Camille urged, helping replace the stone slab. They slipped out, securing the lock behind them, then raced through the labyrinth of graves. When a guard's light swung toward them, Adrian pulled her behind a massive angel sculpture, his body shielding hers as the beam passed inches away. Pressed against cold marble, Camille felt Adrian's heartbeat pounding in rhythm with her own, his arms around her both protection and temptation. Rain began falling, soft at first, then heavier, cold drops sliding down her neck, soaking her hair. When the guard moved on, they made their escape, running between monuments until reaching the cemetery wall. Soaking wet, breathing hard, they shared a moment of pure exhilaration, partners in a discovery that changed everything. The downpour intensified as they reached his car, clothes clinging to skin, hair plastered to faces. Instead of immediately starting the engine, Adrian turned to her, raindrops catching in his eyelashes, expression open with rare, unguarded joy. "We found proof," he said, voice husky with emotion. After all these years, the adrenaline of discovery, the intimate darkness of the car, the rain drumming on the roof, it all conspired to break the last threads of restraint between them. When he reached for her, she met him halfway, their kiss urgent with shared triumph and desire. As they separated, headlights approached on a narrow cemetery road. Adrian tensed, pulling her down below window level. "That's not cemetery security," he whispered, recognition and alarm filling his face. "That's Pascal's car. How would he know we're here? Someone's watching us, tracking us." His expression hardened as he started the engine. "We need somewhere safe to regroup." As headlights drew closer, Adrian pulled her into the shadows, his body shielding hers. "If anything happens," he whispered against her ear, "the account information is memorized in Mathilde's favorite song. Get her to sing it for you." Before she could process the implications, the door splintered open. Have you ever had to trust someone completely when everything was at stake? That moment when your life is in someone else's hands? Share your experience. The man pointing the gun had been in family photos on Adrian's desk. His brother-in-law, his daughter's guardian, his most trusted friend. "Philippe sends his regards," said Victor Laurent, husband of the housekeeper who had cared for Mathilde since birth. The man who would have gained custody of the child and her trust fund if anything happened to Adrian. The abandoned groundskeeper's cottage provided little shelter from the storm raging outside. Lightning flashed through broken windows, illuminating three faces frozen in a tableau of betrayal. The accused, the deceived, and the woman caught between generations of lies. "Victor," Adrian's voice remained steady despite the gun aimed at his chest. "I trusted you with my daughter, and I've kept her safe," Victor replied, water dripping from his expensive coat. "Unlike you, bringing her mother's killer into your home." Camille flinched. "What are you talking about?" "Your mother," Victor said, eyes cold with hatred. "She sabotaged the original lab, caused the accident that killed my brother." "That's a lie." Adrian cut in. "Marie Brooks left because she was threatened by Philippe Mercier, who I'm guessing is very much alive. Philippe protected what Henri Moreau would have destroyed," Victor snapped. "Your father was going to sell the technology to the Americans. Make it public." Philippe understood its true value, controlled by the few, not the many. As he spoke, Camille inched closer to Adrian, their shoulders touching. His hand found hers behind their backs, fingers intertwining in silent communication. "And my wife?" Adrian asked, voice dangerously quiet. Did she understand the true value too? Lightning illuminated Victor's face, revealing a flash of genuine regret. Elise was never supposed to be in that car. She changed drivers at the last minute. Adrian's grip tightened painfully around Camille's fingers, but his expression remained composed. "You've been working for Mercier all along." The CFO, Pascal. "A useful idiot," Victor confirmed. "Easy to manipulate with money. Easy to frame when necessary." Police sirens wailed in the distance, barely audible through the storm. Victor smiled coldly. "They won't find us here," he said, "but they'll find enough evidence at your home to arrest you for corporate espionage. And with both legal guardians unavailable, poor Mathilde will need her uncle to care for her and her inheritance." "Madame Laurent?" Camille asked, thinking of the housekeeper who had shown her nothing but kindness. "My wife follows orders," Victor stated flatly. "Always has." Camille felt Adrian shift beside her, muscles tensing. She knew he was calculating odds, measuring distances. His eyes darted to the broken window, gauging escape routes. "You won't shoot?" Adrian said calmly. You need me to sign transfer documents. I need your signature, Victor corrected, producing a phone. Which finger should I remove first to get it? The threat hung in the air, punctuated by thunder. In that moment of tension, Camille felt Adrian's breath against her ear. A single word, barely audible, duck. Lightning flashed again. And in that split second of illumination, Adrian lunged forward, shoving the gun upward as Camille dropped to the floor. The weapon discharged, bullets splintering rotted ceiling beams. What followed was chaos. Men struggling for control, furniture crashing, Camille scrambling for the fallen gun. When her fingers closed around cold metal, Victor froze, finding himself suddenly on the wrong end of the barrel. It's over, she said, hands steadier than she felt. But Victor's smile suggested otherwise. Did you really think I came alone? Headlights swept across the cottage windows as multiple vehicles approached through the storm. When have you discovered someone you trusted completely wasn't who they claimed to be? That moment when everything you believed crumbles? Tell me your story. She'd spent her life playing by the rules until tonight, when breaking them became the only way to save 3 lives and billions in stolen legacy. The tunnel, Adrian whispered, pulling Camille toward the cottage's ancient fireplace as Victor lay unconscious, temple bleeding where the gun but had connected. These old properties all connect underground. Lights from approaching vehicles swept across broken windows. Voices called out in French. Men searching, closing in. Adrian pressed a hidden switch inside the fireplace. Stone ground against stone as a narrow opening appeared. Without hesitation, Camille plunged into darkness, Adrian close behind, sealing the passage as footsteps pounded into the cottage. Cold, damp air filled the narrow tunnel. Their phone flashlights revealed centuries-old stonework stretching ahead into blackness. Where does this lead? Camille asked, voice hushed. The main road, eventually. But we can't go home. His face, half illuminated, showed grim determination. Victor will have men watching the mansion. Mathilde, Madame Laurent would never harm her, Adrian insisted, though doubt clouded his eyes. But we need to move quickly. They navigated the labyrinth in tense silence, emerging finally through a hidden door in a roadside shrine. Rain had subsided to misty drizzle, the countryside dark except for distant Paris glowing on the horizon. We need transportation, Adrian said, scanning the empty road. As if answering, headlights appeared around a bend. Camille tensed, but Adrian stepped forward, thumb out in the universal hitchhiker signal. The approaching delivery van slowed, stopped. 10 minutes and a significant cash offering later. They were heading toward Paris in the van's cargo area, surrounded by boxes of fresh bread bound for early morning bakeries. Paris blurred past rain-streaked windows as they weaved through midnight streets. The city of light transformed into a labyrinth of shadows, where every corner could hide salvation or capture. We need somewhere to regroup, Adrian said, voice tight with controlled fear for his daughter. Somewhere they wouldn't look. Camille thought quickly. The linguistics department at Sorbonne. My old professor keeps an apartment for visiting scholars. She always said I could use it. A police car screamed past, lights flashing. Instinctively, Adrian pulled Camille into the shadows between bread racks, his body shielding hers as they both held their breath. When the danger passed, neither moved immediately, the closeness offering momentary comfort amid chaos. If we don't make it, he started, but she silenced him with a kiss that spoke of defiance, of refusing to accept defeat, of claiming whatever moments remained. His response was immediate, desperate, hands memorizing her as though this might be all they ever had. When they separated, breath ragged, her voice was steady. We'll make it. We'll get Mathilde. We'll fix this. The delivery driver dropped them near the university, the pre-dawn streets nearly empty. As they walked briskly toward the linguistics building, Adrian's phone buzzed with news alerts. He stopped, face draining of color as he read the screen. Adrian Moreau, tech billionaire, wanted for questioning in connection with corporate espionage and the attempted abduction of his own daughter. Camille's heart plummeted. Abduction? Victor's work. His jaw tightened. He's reporting that I tried to flee with Mathilde, that he rescued her. No one will believe that. They will when Pascal confirms it. Adrien pocketed his phone, eyes hardening with resolve. The trap is sprung, but they're not the only ones who can set traps. What would you risk everything to protect? What matters so much you defy law, danger, and impossible odds? Share what you value most below. The world's most wanted man stood in his own home, watching his face on every screen, while she accessed the hidden server that would clear his name and reclaim her birthright. Ready? Adrien asked, voice low. Camille nodded, fingers poised over the keyboard. Ready? The linguistics department apartment had provided temporary sanctuary, allowing them 8 precious hours to develop their counterattack. Now, as midnight approached, they'd return to the one place their enemies wouldn't expect, Adrien's mansion itself. They'd entered through maintenance tunnels, bypassing Victor's security. The house stood mostly dark, a skeleton crew of unfamiliar guards patrolling outside while the family wing remained empty. Screens glowed blue in the hidden command center beneath the mansion, reflecting in their determined eyes as digital breadcrumbs they'd planted hours earlier began leading authorities not away from them, but straight to the true conspiracy. Uploading my mother's original documentation now, Camille murmured, watching encryption keys unlock decades-old files. Proof of the partnership, of threats made, of Philippe Mercier's elaborate fraud. Beside her, Adrien activated dormant security protocols, accessing cameras hidden in his boardroom, in Pascal's office, in Victor's private study, cameras installed after Elise's death, recording conversations for 3 years. How much longer? He asked, monitoring security feeds showing guards circling the property's perimeter. 2 minutes. The authentication sequence is running. His hand found hers in the blue-lit darkness, squeezing gently. Despite everything, the danger, the betrayal, the uncertain outcome, Camille felt a strange sense of rightness, as though all paths in her life had been leading to this moment, this partnership. There, she said as the final firewall yielded, transmitting to the authorities and media outlets now. On the monitors, they watched their evidence spreading like digital wildfire, financial records proving embezzlement, audio files revealing conspiracy, DNA proof connecting Camille to Marie Brooks, and most damning, video of Victor confessing to Elise's murder. He never suspected, Adrien said, satisfaction coloring his voice. The cottage was under surveillance the entire time. What about Mathilde? Anxiety coursed through Camille. Where would Victor take her? There's only one place he'd feel safe. Adrien brought up a satellite image on the main screen. Philippe Mercier's estate in Switzerland. Officially owned by a shell corporation, but my security team has been monitoring it for months. Camille studied the mountain property. Isolated, fortified, accessible only by private road or helicopter. How do we get there? We don't. His expression was both resolute and agonized. Not yet. The authorities will handle the extraction once they have this evidence. A security alert flashed on the perimeter cameras, police vehicles approaching the gates, lights flashing silently. They're here, Adrien said, voice tight. Faster than I expected. As evidence streamed to authorities and media outlets worldwide, security monitors showed police surrounding the mansion. They'll understand soon, he said, squeezing her hand. But not soon enough. Their eyes turned to a monitor showing Mathilde's empty bedroom, stuffed animals arranged precisely on her pillow. It's time for Plan B. And we'll have to separate, Adrien said, pain evident in every word. I need to surrender, create a distraction. You need to reach Interpol directly with the Switzerland location. No, Camille pretestif. We stay together. If we're both arrested, who will speak for Mathilde? His fingers brushed her cheek. I trust you with the most precious thing in my life. Now go. His kiss held the weight of a promise, brief, fierce, certain, before he turned toward the stairs that would lead him to surrender, while she disappeared into the tunnels once more. Why have you turned the tables on someone who underestimated you? That moment of perfect justice when the hunter becomes the hunted? Share your victory below. 3 months after disappearing from Paris, Camille Brooks walked into the New Orleans courthouse not as a fugitive, but as the controlling shareholder of a tech empire, with documents that would reshape two families' destinies. Sunlight streamed through stained glass courthouse windows, painting rainbow patterns across faces that had last met in darkness and fear, now assembled in the light of justice long delayed. Philippe Mercier, very much alive and now very much in custody, sat flanked by attorneys. Victor and Pascal occupied separate tables with their legal teams. Across from them, Camille stood beside Adrian, whose arm remained protectively around Mathilde's shoulders. The court recognizes the rightful inheritance claim of Camille Brooks, the judge announced, voice echoing in the hushed chamber. Daughter of Marie Brooks Devereaux, original co-founder of Moreau Technologies. Victory tasted sweet, but not as sweet as the moment 3 weeks earlier when Interpol had extracted Mathilde from Mercier's Swiss compound. The little girl running in her father's arms while Camille watched, tears streaming down both their faces. The evidence had been irrefutable. Victor's confession, Philippe's fake death, the systematic theft of Marie Brooks' legacy, the deliberate targeting of both families across decades. Additionally, the judge continued, custody of Mathilde Moreau is confirmed to remain with her father, Adrien Moreau, with Camille Brooks named as secondary guardian per the filed petitions. Mathilde squeezed Camille's hand, a gesture that held more meaning than any legal pronouncement. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered for statements. Cameras flashed as Adrien addressed the press, his voice steady as he outlined the technology's future, not as a surveillance weapon, but as protection against unauthorized monitoring, available to all, not just the privileged few. My father and Marie Brooks envisioned technology that preserved privacy, he said, Camille standing proudly at his side. Today, we honor that original vision. Hours later, they stood on the balcony of their new home overlooking the French Quarter, a restored historic property where Mathilde could attend school in New Orleans while they split their time between continents. Your mother would be proud, Adrien said, joining Camille at the railing as sunset painted the sky in vibrant oranges and purples. Of the money, she asked, smiling. Of you. His hand covered hers. Your courage, your integrity. The ring on her finger caught the fading light. Not an ostentatious diamond, but a simple band inlaid with a pattern matching the cipher from her mother's hidden book. His proposal had come the day after Mathilde's rescue. Not a question of passion, but of partnership, of building something neither could create alone. The door to their new home barely closed before they reached for each other. Months of tension and resolution dissolving in touches that spoke of homecoming. Never again, he murmured against her neck, walking her backward toward their bedroom. We don't separate again. Her answer was in the way she pulled him closer, in promises written with fingers and lips instead of words. Later, watching him sleep, Camille rested her hand on her stomach, where new life had just begun, created not from desperation or obligation, but from choice and love. The ultimate legacy, a child who would inherit not just wealth, but truth, connection, and the story of how two families, separated by deception, had finally found their way back together. What legacy would you fight to protect? Not just money or property, but the truth of who you are and where you come from? Share what matters most to your story below.